February 26th, 1935, Daventry, England. A cold mist rolls across the English countryside, clinging to the hedgerows and skeletal trees. In a muddy field outside the small town of Daventry, two British engineers hunch over a collection of wires, steel poles, and a humming transmitter truck. The air smells of damp grass and ozone. One of them, a tall, bespectacled physicist named Robert Watson Watt, adjusts a dial on the radio set and mutters to his assistant, Arnold Wilkins.
If this works, he says, we'll make the invisible visible.
A Royal Air Force biplane drones in the distance, circling through the clouds. The two men lean toward their receiver, listening. Static. Then, a faint pulse, rhythmic, unnatural. Wilkins looks up sharply. That's it! That's the reflection! Watson Watt grins. The pulse of the aircraft's radio waves has bounced back from the plane, a signal invisible to the eye, but clear as day on their instruments. In that instant, the world changes. This isn't just detection, it's early radar, radio detection and ranging. And in the quiet field of Daventry, Britain has just glimpsed the future of warfare. Over the next 4 years, under absolute secrecy, Watson Watt and his team work furiously. By 1939, a chain of massive steel towers rises along the British coast, from Scotland to the Isle of Wight, each one part of a vast defensive network called Chain Home. It's crude, almost laughable by later standards. The transmitters look like scaffolding, their signals noisy and imprecise. The range is limited, the altitude readings unreliable. But in the dark days to come, this toy radar, as some call it, will become Britain's shield. Berlin, 1939. In the Reich Air Ministry, German officers and scientists pore over intercepted intelligence. They've heard whispers of British radio towers, but none take them seriously. Dr. Hans Holman, one of the Luftwaffe's radar researchers, waves his hand dismissively. It's nothing. The British are wasting their time. You cannot fight a war with radio waves. Across the room, a Luftwaffe colonel chuckles. Let them play with their antennas. When our bombers come, they'll see us, when it's already too late. The arrogance is absolute. Germany's scientists focus instead on offensive technology. Faster aircraft, precision bombs, and navigation beacons for their own pilots. Defensive radar, a curiosity at best. September 1st, 1939, Poland. The world catches fire. As German tanks roll east and the Blitzkrieg sweeps through Europe, Britain braces for the inevitable. The Royal Air Force, outnumbered and outgunned, faces a nightmare. Soon the Luftwaffe will come for the island itself. At RAF Bentley Priory, a sprawling mansion north of London converted into Fighter Command headquarters, a new kind of battle network is taking shape. Here, information from chain home stations flows in real time. Range, bearing, altitude, relayed by telephone operators to plotters who mark the positions of incoming aircraft with small colored blocks across a vast table map. Above them, Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding, the stoic head of Fighter Command, watches silently. He understands what few yet grasp. Britain's survival won't depend on brute strength, it will depend on information. Dowding turns to his aides. Radar gives us eyes, he says quietly. And with eyes, even a few can fight the many. The pieces are in place. The Germans still laugh, but soon the sky over England will become the proving ground for this invisible weapon, a weapon that sees in the dark. July 10th, 1940, Dover, England. The morning air is thick with salt and tension. In a small hut at the Chain Home radar station atop Swingate Down, an operator named Margaret Glass sits before a green cathode screen. Her headphones buzz with static as she sweeps her dials across the sky. For hours, the sea beyond the white cliffs has been calm. Too calm. Then suddenly faint spikes of light begin to flicker across the display. She leans closer. Multiple contacts, bearing 120, range 70 miles. She grabs the phone. Plotters to Fighter Command, large formation incoming, altitude 15,000 feet. Miles away at Bentley Priory, clerks in crisp uniforms mark small red counters on a massive map of southern England. Each counter represents a formation of incoming aircraft. Voices call across the room, crisp, urgent, overlapping. Sector Control, this is Group 11. Hostile raid forming over Calais. Repeat, large raid, Calais. On the mezzanine above, Air Chief Marshal Dowding watches the map fill with red markers. He doesn't hesitate. Scramble Biggin Hill, scramble Tangmere. Get 11 Group airborne immediately. Within minutes, the order races across telephone lines and radio waves to RAF fighter airfields all over southern England. Sirens blare. Mechanics drop their tools. Pilots sprint toward their Spitfires and Hurricanes. Engines roar to life. Grass flies from the airfields as the first squadrons lift off. Number 610 Squadron from Biggin Hill, number 32 Squadron from Hawking, and dozens more. By the time German bombers cross the channel, the RAF is already waiting for them. Over the English Channel, 0920 hours. The morning sun glints off hundreds of silver shapes moving in tight formation. Dornier Do 17s, Heinkel Have-1 Lunds, and Junkers Ju 88s, escorted by sleek Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters. Inside one bomber, Oberleutnant Franz Keller glances at his instruments. The channel beneath looks calm, serene. His navigator shouts over the engine noise. No fighters in sight. The English must still be asleep. He smiles until a burst of radio chatter cuts in. Achtung, Spitfire, Spitfire, 6 o'clock. The sky erupts. Out of the sun, a pack of RAF fighters dive like hawks. The lead Spitfire's 8 Browning machine guns blaze, tearing into a Heinkel's wing. Flames bloom in midair. The bomber rolls and disintegrates. They were waiting for us! Keller screams into his headset. How? He doesn't know it yet, but radar saw him before he even took off. Down below, civilians watch from the fields of Kent as contrails twist and weave across the blue sky, the first great air battle of the Battle of Britain. At Uxbridge Sector Control, Group Captain Keith Park stares at his plotting table as colored markers shift across the map. That's not luck, he mutters to his staff. They're flying blind. We're not. He turns to his WAF operators, young women working with precise, practiced rhythm, moving markers across the glass plotting surface with long sticks. Each motion represents life and death. Keep them updated, Park orders. We'll win this with seconds, not bullets. And he's right. The radar network, from chain home towers to the plotting rooms and radio operators, gives the RAF what the Luftwaffe cannot understand: time. Every interception happens earlier. Every fighter is in the air before the German bombers arrive. Berlin, August 1940. In a dimly lit briefing room at the Reich Air Ministry, General Hans Jeschenek, Luftwaffe Chief of Staff, slams his fist on the table. Impossible! How do they find us every time? Our bombers are hit the moment they cross the channel. One of his intelligence officers hesitates before speaking. There are radio towers along their coast. Large ones. Perhaps... Jeschenek cuts him off. Those? They're nothing. Broadcast stations, weather equipment, perhaps propaganda transmitters. No radar can see that far. The officers murmur among themselves. To most of them, the idea that invisible radio waves could track aircraft is science fiction. And so the Luftwaffe keeps coming, wave after wave, straight into the waiting guns of the RAF. By late August, the pattern is clear. Every raid ends the same way. The British know exactly where the Germans are coming from. The airfields hold until dusk. The radar towers remain standing. In the skies over England, a new kind of warfare has begun. One fought not just with bullets and bravery, but with mathematics, electricity, and invisible waves pulsing through the air. And the Germans still have no idea how. August 15th, 1940, the Battle of Britain's hardest day. The sun rises red over the channel, a sailor's warning. From radar stations up and down the coast, operators take their posts, headphones crackling, pencils poised. At Ventnor, on the Isle of Wight, the chain-home transmitter towers glint faintly in the morning light. They're massive, 350-foot giants of steel lattice humming with electricity. Inside the operations room below, Flight Officer Alice Miller, only 22, adjusts her dials and watches the oscilloscope pulse to life. At first, there's nothing but static. Then, faint returns like the heartbeat of the sea itself. Suddenly, the screen flares with jagged spikes. She straightens, eyes widening. Control, this is Ventnor. Multiple contacts, over Cherbourg, bearing 085, range 120 miles. It's a big one. The message leaps from station to station, racing inland through telephone lines and switchboards until it reaches the heart of Fighter Command at Bentley Priory. By the time the Luftwaffe's bombers lift off from their French airfields, their positions are already marked in red on the giant map inside the operations room. From the balcony above, Air Vice Marshal Keith Park watches the glowing table. Every red counter a German formation, every blue counter an RAF squadron moving to intercept. The hum of typewriters and telephones fills the room. They're sending everything they have, Park says quietly. Let's see if they can fly through our eyes. 0900 hours, north of London. German formations thunder toward their targets in neat geometric precision. Below, the clouds break, and climbing through them, the defenders appear. Spitfires from number 603 Squadron, Hurricanes from number 111 Squadron, each guided there not by luck, but by radar. Squadron leader. Brian Kingcombe grips his stick and calls out over the radio, "Tally-ho, 11 o'clock high, bandits inbound." He pushes his throttle forward. The Merlin engine screams. The sky becomes a blur of silver and fire. The first Heinkel explodes mid-air. A second dives trailing smoke. German pilots shout warnings across their channels.
They're here again. Always on time. How?
They still don't know that 120 miles away, a young woman in a quiet radar hut saw them coming 15 minutes before they crossed the coast. Back in Germany, disbelief turns to frustration. Reports pour in from returning bomber crews. Hundreds of losses, precision interceptions, British fighters that seem to appear out of nowhere. At the Rechlin Luftwaffe test center, German scientists begin to analyze captured British documents and reports. Dr. Hans Holman, the same man who once mocked the idea of radar, now stares at a crude schematic of a chain-home tower. He rubs his temples. "Monstrous," he whispers. "It's primitive, but it works." They begin experiments of their own, but it's too late. The infrastructure, the network, the command system, the trained operators took the British years to build. The Luftwaffe can't destroy what it doesn't understand, and it can't copy what it refuses to believe. Late August, coastal England. The radar stations themselves become targets. German bombers dive on them, dropping tons of high explosives. The attacks knock out some towers temporarily, but within hours, repair crews arrive. Engineers, often teenagers, risking shrapnel and fire to reconnect power lines and rehang cables. At Polling Station, a bomb levels the transmitter hut. Yet by dawn the next day, the radar is back online. The network bends, but it does not break. Prime Minister Winston Churchill, visiting Fighter Command, watches the young WAF operators at their plotting tables and whispers to doubting, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." Few knew it then, but those few included not only the pilots above, but the unseen women and engineers below, their eyes fixed on glowing green screens, keeping Britain alive minute by minute. By September 1940, the Luftwaffe's confidence has shattered. Bombers that once roamed freely over France now fall in flames over English fields. Their escorts can't keep pace. Their targets vanish into cloud and night. Every time the Germans change tactics, mass raids, low-altitude attacks, feints across the channel, the British radar adapts. The network tracks them all. In the pubs and factories of London, the word spreads, "Our radar sees them coming." It's not a weapon anyone can touch or see, but the people begin to believe in it, an invisible guardian above the island. And for the first time since the war began, Britain stands firm. But in Berlin, a new order is given, one born of frustration and pride. If the RAF cannot be broken in the air, then the cities of Britain will burn on the ground. The Blitz is about to begin, and once again, radar will stand between life and annihilation. September 7th, 1940, London. The sun dips below the horizon as a low, mournful wail cuts through the city. Air raid sirens. Again. In the east, a dull orange glow rises, the docks already burning. Within minutes, the sky fills with the sound of engines, hundreds of them droning like a swarm of angry hornets. The Blitz has begun. Inside an underground bunker beneath RAF Fighter Command, the air hums with tension. Radar operators, fatigued but focused, hunch over their scopes as the chain-home network pulses across the night sky. On one screen, the faint green echoes dance, dozens of them, hundreds. Flight Officer Alice Miller bites her lip. "Control, we've got multiple tracks forming over Calais. It's another big one. Altitude 8,000, heading northwest, direct to London." The message races through the system. Phones ring, radios crackle. At Fighter Command HQ, the map table lights up in red. WAF plotters move markers across the glass surface, their long sticks pushing the colored discs forward like the sweep of time itself. Air Chief Marshal Dowding watches, silent. He knows the truth. They can't stop every bomber, not tonight. The enemy has changed tactics. They're striking not at airfields now, but at the heart of Britain itself. Still, radar gives warning, and warning gives hope. Over the channel, 2100 hours. A wave of Heinkel 111 and Dornier 17 bombers flies low over the black water. The moon is a thin sliver. London lies ahead, dark, silent, waiting. In one cockpit, Oberleutnant Franz Keller, the same bomber pilot who once laughed at the toy radar, checks his instruments. His navigator calls out, "Target marker, Thames Estuary, bearing 345, no fighters." He exhales, "Maybe tonight will be easy." Then the radio crackles, frantic German voices. Achtung! Spitfires! Night interceptors! Tracer fire rips through the darkness. One bomber explodes in a flash of orange, its pieces tumbling into the sea. Another veers off course, its engine trailing smoke. Keller stares out the window, terrified. How do they see us in the dark? He doesn't know it yet, but Britain's radar network now extends inland, feeding new technology, airborne interception radar mounted on Bristol Blenheim night fighters. The same invisible waves that guide defense by day now hunt by night. The Germans' laughter from a year ago has turned into disbelief. London, 2145 hours. Bombs fall in sheets. The Thames burns. The docks vanish in fire. The blast waves shatter windows across the city. Civilians huddle in the underground stations, singing to drown out the distant thunder. Above ground, anti-aircraft guns open up, guided by radar range-finding and searchlight control. For the first time in human history, war is being fought with unseen eyes. The chain home operators keep tracking, keep feeding bearings to the guns and fighters. Through exhaustion and fear, they never stop. At polling station, a young technician shouts over the hum of generators. "They're jamming us, sir, sending false echoes." The officer nods grimly. The Germans have begun using chaff, strips of aluminum foil dropped from planes to confuse radar. It's clever, but crude. The operators adapt, filtering the interference by instinct. The human brain, it turns out, is better than any machine at recognizing patterns. Within minutes, the radar picture stabilizes. The towers are still watching. Berlin, October 1940. In a smoky conference room of the Reich Air Ministry, German scientists and officers debate the inexplicable. Piles of reconnaissance photos cover the table, grainy images of British coastline towers. Dr. Holman speaks quietly, almost reverently. It's radar. There's no doubt anymore. They can see us day or night, through cloud, through darkness. Every raid we send is doomed before it begins. One colonel slams his fist down. Then we must destroy them. Holman shakes his head. We tried. The towers rebuild, and the network is too vast. We laughed when they built it. We should have listened. The room falls silent. The arrogance of 1939 has died, buried under the wreckage of too many bombers. Britain, winter 1940. Snow dusts the radar towers along the coast. The operators still work through the nights, their breath fogging the cold air inside unheated huts. Fighter command still scrambles, still fights, still holds. By Christmas it's clear. The Blitz has failed. London burns, yes, but it lives. Britain has not been invaded. The RAF still flies. And in the shadows, the quiet hum of radar continues, the heartbeat of a nation that refuses to die. In the years to come, radar will evolve. Miniaturized sets will guide night fighters, naval convoys, and bombers. It will become the backbone of every modern war and the foundation of peacetime aviation. But in 1940, it was more than technology. It was faith made visible, an invisible wall that stood between freedom and darkness. And for the German scientists who once mocked it, the truth would sting forever. The toy radar they dismissed had given a small island the power to see the unseen and win the first great battle fought by machines that could see in the dark. Spring 1945, Suffolk Coast, England. The war is nearly over. The wind off the North Sea carries the smell of salt and rust as a pair of engineers climb the narrow ladder of an aging chain-home radar tower. Below them, the land is quiet. No more bombers, no sirens, just gulls circling the gray sky. At the top, one of them, Lieutenant David Browning, looks out toward the horizon where so many times before he had seen death coming as blips of light on a cathode tube.
Funny, he says softly. It's quiet now, but I still listen for them.
His partner nods, running a hand over the cold steel railing. You think they'll keep these towers standing? Browning smiles faintly. They already are. These things saved Britain. They'll outlive all of us. Berlin, April 1945. In the ruins of the Reich Air Ministry, piles of paper smolder in the wreckage. Amid the debris, a charred folder marked Funk Mesgerat, British types, radar equipment flutters open. Schematics, intercepted radio frequencies, reports from captured British stations. All useless now. A young Luftwaffe engineer picks up one page, blackened at the edges, showing the outline of a chain-home tower. He shakes his head, reading a note scribbled in pencil. The system is primitive, but its strength is in its network. The Germans had built better radar sets later, smaller, more powerful, technically superior, but none of it mattered. They had learned too late what Britain had understood from the beginning, the power of connection. of people, machines, and information woven together. June 1946, London. The war is over, the towers still stand. At a small ceremony outside the Air Ministry, Sir Robert Watson Watt, older now, greets a crowd of engineers, pilots, and radar operators. On the stage beside him is a relic, one of the original cathode ray displays from a chain home station, its green glass still faintly glowing. Watson Watt clears his throat. In 1935, they told me it was impossible, that no machine could see an airplane in the dark, that we were wasting our time. But when the test pilot flew through that beam of radio waves, I knew we'd glimpsed something greater than ourselves. He pauses, looking out at the audience, many of them the women and men who manned the radar huts through those endless nights of 1940. You weren't soldiers with rifles, but you fought in your own way. You gave your country sight when it was blind. And that, my friends, is how you win wars. The applause is quiet, but heartfelt. Some wipe away tears. For most, this is the first time their work has been spoken of in public. Radar was a secret so well kept that even many pilots never knew the faces behind the voices guiding them home. In the years that follow, radar becomes the backbone of a new world. Civil aviation uses it to land in fog. Navies track ships through storms. Meteorologists map the movements of rain and lightning. The very concept of an unseen threat begins to lose its power, because now humanity can see what was once hidden. The Germans' mockery of toy radar fades into legend. Historians later find Luftwaffe memos from 1939 describing the British system as unlikely to function beyond 15 kilometers. The irony is cruel. Those same towers were detecting bombers over 100 miles away. September 1955. Worth Matravers, Dorset. A lone chain home tower stands silhouetted against the evening sky. The last of the wartime stations has been decommissioned. A young airman photographs it for the archives. As the shutter clicks, the metal skeleton hums softly in the sea wind, as if still alive, still watching. Beneath it, a small plaque reads, "From these towers, Britain saw its enemy before the enemy saw her." Here began the science that made the night transparent. Epilogue. In the end, radar was not a weapon of destruction, but of perception, a mirror held up to the arrogance of war itself. It proved that intelligence and foresight could defeat brute force, that the invisible could protect the visible. During those desperate months in 1940, when invasion loomed and the sky burned, Britain's survival hung not on size or power, but on an invisible rhythm pulsing through the ether, unseen waves bouncing between heaven and earth. And when the laughter of German scientists finally died away, replaced by the silence of their lost squadrons, one truth stood eternal. In war, it is not always the gun or the bomb that decides the future, but the quiet hum of an idea strong enough to see through the dark.